Imagine a world where every conversation feels like a boxing match. A world where winning an argument isn't just a goal, but the ultimate badge of honor, the pinnacle of intelligence. We've all been there, right? That rush of proving your point, silencing the opposition. But have you ever hit pause and really asked yourself, is arguing truly a sign of strength? Or could it actually be a mask, a clever disguise for something much deeper, perhaps even a fundamental weakness? Today, we're diving headfirst into the mind-bending, often provocative ideas of one of history's most compelling thinkers, Friedrich Nietzsche. We're going to unravel his profound take on why, in his eyes, arguing is so often the refuge of the weak. By the time we're done, you might not only rethink how you handle conflict, but you might just see human interaction in a completely new light. Nietzsche's philosophy challenges so many of the norms we take for granted, and his view on arguments is no exception. He firmly believed that genuine strength isn't about dominating a conversation or winning a debate. Instead, it lies in the sheer courage to stand firm in your convictions, even if that means standing in silence. For Nietzsche, those who are constantly caught up in arguments are often just compensating for something they lack, usually a deep sense of inner clarity or true self-assuredness. To really dig into this idea, we first need to grasp his broader understanding of human nature and the subtle, often unspoken dynamics of power that play out between us. So let's kick things off with that big question. Why do we argue? Is it to simply prove a point? To assert dominance? Or maybe, just maybe, to desperately defend our own sense of self? Nietzsche would argue that at the core of most disputes, you'll find a fragile ego. It's that nagging need to validate oneself through the submission or agreement of others. And for him, this wasn't strength, it was the absolute hallmark of weakness. Think about it. Truly strong individuals, in Nietzsche's view, don't need external validation. They're profoundly content with their own truths, unshaken, unbothered by the disagreement or dissent of others. In his groundbreaking work, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche introduces a concept that's central to all of this, the overman or Übermensch. This isn't some superhero, but a figure who transcends conventional societal norms, embracing life fully and authentically. The overman, quite simply, doesn't get caught up in trivial disputes. Why? Because their entire focus is on self-overcoming, on becoming more than they are, not on proving themselves to others. In his groundbreaking work, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche introduces a concept that's central to all of this, the overman or Übermensch. This isn't some superhero, but a figure who transcends conventional societal norms, embracing life fully and authentically. The overman, quite simply, doesn't get caught up in trivial disputes. Why? Because their entire focus is on self-overcoming, on becoming more than they are, not on proving themselves to others. Nietzsche believed that people who constantly argue are often trapped in what he called resentment. This is a powerful concept, a state of reactive energy, where you define yourself in opposition to others, rather than through your own inherent values and strengths. This reactive way of living is, for Nietzsche, inherently weak. Why? Because it hands over control of your emotions and your very identity to external forces, to the opinions and actions of others. Take a moment to think about the last argument you had. Was it really about the topic at hand? Or was there a deeper, perhaps unspoken, emotional current beneath it? Maybe a desperate need to be seen as intelligent, or always right, or simply worthy.
Nietzsche would contend that the strongest individuals are precisely those who can recognize this impulsive urge to argue, and then, crucially, resist it. Instead of reacting, they reflect. Instead of arguing, they rise above. Now, this isn't to say Nietzsche was advocating for passivity or silence in the face of injustice. Quite the opposite. He valued action over mere words. For him, true strength lay in demonstrating your values through your life and your choices, not through empty rhetoric. The truly powerful don't need to convince others of their beliefs. They embody them. They understand that arguing rarely, if ever, changes minds. More often, it just entrenches positions, making both sides dig in deeper.
As Nietzsche famously wrote, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will often be lonely and sometimes frightened, but no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. This idea resonates so powerfully in today's world, especially with social media amplifying every disagreement, turning minor differences into full-blown conflicts. Nietzsche's perspective forces us to pause and ask ourselves, what am I really trying to achieve here? Is this argument truly worth my energy, or am I just reacting to external expectations? His philosophy challenges us to step back, to focus on building our inner strength instead of tearing others down. But what does it mean to build inner strength, according to Nietzsche? For him, it begins with self-knowledge. He believed that most people aren't fully aware of their own motives, their deepest fears, or their true desires. Without this critical self-awareness, we become slaves to external forces, easily provoked, easily manipulated. Inner strength, on the other hand, comes from a profound, unshakable understanding of oneself. It's the ability to remain grounded and unshaken, regardless of the chaos unfolding outside. Nietzsche's critique of arguing also extends to the very concept of truth. He famously believed that absolute truth is largely an illusion, a construct humans create to make sense of a complex world. If truth itself is subjective, then what's the point of endlessly arguing over it? For Nietzsche, the pursuit of personal truth, your own truth, was far more important than debating universal truths. He urged individuals to fearlessly explore their own values, beliefs, and purpose, rather than simply conforming to societal norms or desperately seeking validation through arguments. This idea is both incredibly liberating and profoundly challenging. It demands that we let go of the need to always be right, to embrace uncertainty, and to focus on the arduous, lifelong journey of self-discovery. Nietzsche's philosophy pushes us to ask, who am I beyond my arguments? What do I truly stand for? And am I living authentically, or am I just reacting to the expectations of others? As we wrap up this first part, consider this. The next time you feel that familiar urge to argue, just pause, reflect. Ask yourself, is this genuinely an opportunity to grow, or am I just trying to assert my ego? Nietzsche's wisdom invites us to see arguments not as battles to be won, but as mirrors reflecting our deepest inner state. The question is, what will you see when you look into that mirror?
All right, let's pick up where we left off, because we've only scratched the surface of Nietzsche's profound insights. Now we're going to take this a step further by exploring his truly radical perspective on power dynamics and how they fundamentally influence human behavior. At the very heart of his philosophy lies a concept that defines everything for him: the will to power. Nietzsche saw this will to power as the fundamental, underlying driving force behind all human actions. It's not just about the desire to survive, as many other philosophers might argue. It's a deeper, more primal urge to thrive, to grow, to overcome, and to assert yourself in the world. However, and this is absolutely critical, he believed that true power comes not from controlling others, but from mastering oneself. This distinction is absolutely pivotal when we consider why people argue. In most cases, arguments, especially the heated, ego-driven ones, stem from a misguided attempt to assert dominance or control over someone else's perspective. It's a subtle form of coercion, a desire to make someone else conform to your view. But what Nietzsche found deeply troubling about this behavior is that it often masks an internal void, a profound lack of self-assurance, clarity, or a clear sense of purpose. People argue, in his view, not because they are strong, but precisely because they feel threatened, incomplete, or deeply insecure. To really hammer this home, Nietzsche often criticized what he called herd mentality. Think about it. The herd represents individuals who conform to societal norms, who desperately seek validation through collective agreement. They argue, not out of conviction, but to reinforce their place within the group, to prove their loyalty to shared beliefs, or to silence dissenting voices that dare to challenge their collective comfort zones. For Nietzsche, this was an undeniable sign of weakness. The truly strong individual, remember our overman, does not need the approval of the herd. They live by their own values, even when those values go completely against the grain, even when it makes them unpopular. Now, let's examine how this plays out in our everyday lives. Just consider the countless debates that explode online, in the comment sections, or on social media. Arguments there often devolve into personal attacks, endless loops of rebuttals, and a frustrating lack of resolution. These interactions rarely, if ever, lead to meaningful understanding or genuine resolution. Instead, what they truly reveal are the deep insecurities of the participants, that insatiable need to be right, to feel superior, or to avoid the discomfort of vulnerability. Nietzsche's perspective challenges us to see these moments for what they truly are, distractions from the real work of self-improvement and self-mastery. They're diversions from the journey of becoming who you're meant to be. So, how does one break free from this relentless cycle? Nietzsche would argue that it begins with a radical shift in focus, from external validation to internal growth. Instead of expending all your precious energy trying to convince others, channel that energy inward into becoming a more authentic, more resilient version of yourself. This isn't easy. It requires immense courage, the courage to face your fears, to confront your own flaws, and to embrace the often uncomfortable process of change. It also requires a good dose of humility, the willingness to admit that you don't have all the answers and that your perspective is just one of many valid ways to see the world.
But let's be crystal clear. Nietzsche was not advocating for isolation or disengagement from the world. Quite the contrary. He believed that meaningful relationships and genuine intellectual exchanges are absolutely essential for personal growth. However, he insisted that these interactions must be rooted in mutual respect and a shared desire to explore deeper truths, not in a desperate need to dominate, belittle, or win. When we approach conversations with genuine curiosity instead of defensiveness, we create space for true connection and profound understanding. At this point, you might be wondering, if arguing is so often a sign of weakness, what does true strength look like in a disagreement? For Nietzsche, it's not about winning the argument, it's about transcending it. Strong individuals listen with an open mind. They engage with ideas rather than getting bogged down in egos, and they remain grounded in their values even when those values are challenged. They don't shy away from difficult conversations, but neither do they feel compelled to prove their worth through confrontation. Here's a practical example to consider. Imagine someone challenges your deeply held beliefs or criticizes your actions. Your immediate instinct might be to defend yourself, to argue your point with fervor. But what if instead you paused and reflected? What if you used that moment for self-overcoming? What if you used it to examine your own assumptions, to honestly ask yourself whether the criticism holds any truth, or simply to let the comment go without feeling the desperate need to react. This isn't passivity, it's a profound demonstration of strength and self-control. It shows that you are not easily shaken by external forces and that your sense of self-worth does not depend on the fleeting opinions of others.
Nietzsche's insights also have profound implications for how we approach conflict resolution. Instead of viewing disagreements as battles to be won, we can start seeing them as opportunities for growth, for ourselves and for those we interact with. This radical shift in perspective can transform not only our personal relationships, but also our broader social and cultural dynamics. By prioritizing understanding over ego, we create space for dialogue that is constructive rather than destructive. As we move forward, take a moment to reflect on how these ideas resonate with your own experiences. Have you ever found yourself caught in an argument that felt more about proving a point than seeking the truth? What did that experience reveal about your own insecurities or desires? And how might your life change if you approached such situations with Nietzsche's philosophy in mind? The enduring beauty of Nietzsche's teachings lies in their timeless relevance. Even in today's fast-paced, hyper-connected world, his call to focus on self-mastery and authenticity remains as powerful as ever. It invites us to step back from the incessant noise, to examine our deepest motives, and to embrace the profound challenge of living a life that is true to our deepest values. And yet, we've only just begun. Nietzsche's philosophy offers even deeper insights into the nature of human interaction, the dynamics of power, and the pursuit of a truly meaningful life. As we continue, we'll explore how his ideas can help us not only navigate conflicts, but also transcend them, leading to a greater sense of purpose and fulfillment. Ready for the third and final part? Just let me know. All right, for the grand finale, to truly grasp Nietzsche's perspective on why arguing is so often futile, we need to delve even deeper into one of the cornerstones of his entire philosophy, his concept of self-overcoming. This idea isn't just a fleeting thought, it's a recurring, fundamental theme throughout his works. For Nietzsche, life isn't some static state, a fixed point you arrive at. Oh no, it's a relentless, dynamic process of constant growth, challenge, and profound transformation. And where does true strength come from in this view? Not from conquering external foes, but from the ability to overcome not just the obstacles out there, but especially those powerful internal limitations, our fears, our nagging doubts, and the ego's incessant demanding need for validation.
But especially those powerful internal limitations, our fears, our nagging doubts, and the ego's incessant demanding need for validation. Think about it. When we get caught up in arguments, particularly those fueled by ego, we so often lose sight of this much higher goal. The sheer energy we pour into trying to prove ourselves right could be so much better invested. It could be channeled into improving ourselves, into genuinely understanding others, or into refining our own perspectives. Nietzsche's writings are a constant, powerful reminder that the most profound battles we ever face aren't fought with words thrown at others, but are fought and won deep within ourselves. Now, one of Nietzsche's most provocative ideas, one that always sparks intense discussion, is his critique of traditional morality, which he saw as often being a tool of the weak. He argued that many moral systems, especially those emphasizing meekness, submission, and conformity, actually arise from that concept we talked about earlier, resentment. It's a deep-seated, simmering resentment felt by those who feel powerless towards those who are perceived as strong. This resentment, he claimed, leads to the creation of moral frameworks that subtly prioritize traits like meekness and conformity, over genuine strength, ambition, and fierce individualism. In this context, arguments can be seen as an extension of this dynamic, an attempt by the weak, or those feeling weak, to impose their values on others, rather than rising above their own limitations. This raises a crucial question for us. How can we engage with others without falling into the trap of argumentation? Nietzsche would suggest the answer lies in mastering the art of dialogue. Unlike arguments, which are inherently adversarial and almost always aimed at winning, dialogues are collaborative. Their sole aim is understanding. In a true dialogue, both parties approach the conversation with a deep sense of humility and a genuine willingness to learn. They're not trying to assert dominance or score points. They're trying to explore ideas together. Take, for example, a disagreement between two friends about a deeply held belief. In an argument, each friend would likely dig in their heels, refusing to budge, escalating the tension. But in a dialogue, they might ask each other open-ended questions, share their personal experiences, and actively seek common ground. The result isn't just a deeper understanding of each other's perspectives, but often significant personal growth for both individuals.
Nietzsche's disdain for arguing isn't a call to avoid conflict altogether. Let's be clear on that. Conflict, when approached constructively, can actually be a powerful catalyst for growth. But he challenges us to rise above petty disputes and focus on what truly matters: the relentless pursuit of excellence, unshakable authenticity, and a life lived entirely on our own terms. This requires a fundamental shift in mindset, from seeing others as adversaries to seeing them as fellow travelers on the incredible, often challenging journey of life. To really put this into practice, consider Nietzsche's idea of the eternal recurrence. He famously asks us to imagine living our entire lives over and over again, every single moment repeating infinitely. This thought experiment is designed to force us to confront the choices we make and the values we uphold. Would you really want to spend eternity locked in trivial arguments? Or would you rather devote your precious, infinite life to something far more meaningful, something truly creative and fulfilling? This perspective can be profoundly transformative. It reminds us that time is our most precious, finite resource, and that every moment spent arguing is a moment lost to more fulfilling pursuits. Instead of engaging in fruitless debates, we can consciously choose to invest our energy in creating, learning, and connecting with others on a much deeper level. Nietzsche's philosophy also radically challenges us to reconsider our relationship with truth. He famously declared, "There are no facts, only interpretations." This doesn't mean that truth is meaningless or that anything goes. Instead, it implies that truth is always, inevitably, shaped by perspective. When we argue, we often assume that our perspective is the only valid one, instantly dismissing others as wrong or misguided. But Nietzsche invites us to embrace the sheer complexity of truth and to recognize that multiple perspectives can not only coexist, but enrich our understanding. This shift can profoundly change how we approach disagreements. Instead of seeing them as threats to our worldview, we can see them as opportunities to expand our understanding. We can listen without defensiveness, question without hostility, and learn without fear.
And yet, Nietzsche's teachings go even deeper. He challenges us to not only transcend arguments, but to transcend ourselves. This, as we've discussed, is the very essence of self-overcoming, the relentless, lifelong pursuit of becoming more than we currently are. It's about shedding the layers of fear, doubt, and ego that hold us back, and embracing the immense courage required to live authentically. As we near the end of this journey, consider the quiet power of silence in the face of conflict. Nietzsche believed that silence, when chosen consciously, could be a profound form of strength, a refusal to be drawn into the pettiness of argumentation. It's not the silence of submission or of being defeated. Oh no, it's the silence of self-assuredness, the profound silence of someone who knows their worth and has absolutely no need to prove it through words. Reflect on this the next time you are tempted to argue.
Pause and ask yourself, what am I really trying to achieve here? Is this moment an opportunity for growth, or am I simply reacting to my ego's demands? Nietzsche's philosophy invites us to choose the path of strength, wisdom, and self-overcoming, even when that path is undeniably the harder one. As we prepare to truly internalize these ideas, we've reached the culmination of Nietzsche's perspective on arguing. We are left with one of his most profound insights: the idea that strength is not about overpowering others, but about mastering oneself. This mastery goes far beyond merely avoiding arguments. It's about living in a way that reflects profound inner clarity, unwavering purpose, and resilient strength.
This mastery goes far beyond merely avoiding arguments. It's about living in a way that reflects profound inner clarity, unwavering purpose, and resilient strength. Nietzsche believed that true strength is quiet, unyielding, and deeply grounded in the individual's ability to rise above the incessant noise of the world. To fully grasp this, let's revisit his concept of the overman. The overman represents the absolute pinnacle of human potential, a person who has transcended societal expectations, overcome personal limitations, and embraced life in all its breathtaking, terrifying complexity. For Nietzsche, the overman does not engage in arguments because they have no need to. Their life is their argument. Their actions, their values, and their achievements speak louder and more powerfully than any words ever could. In today's world, this idea might feel incredibly counterintuitive. We live in an age of constant communication where every opinion is shared, debated, and dissected at lightning speed. Social media, news platforms, and public discourse often prioritize volume over genuine depth, making it incredibly easy to mistake loudness for actual strength. But Nietzsche's philosophy challenges us to step back from this chaos and focus on what truly matters, our own unique journey of growth and self-discovery. So, how can we apply Nietzsche's wisdom to our daily lives? First, we must recognize that not every disagreement requires our participation. When faced with a potential argument, we can ask ourselves, is this truly worth my energy? Does engaging in this debate align with my deepest values and goals, or is it merely a distraction? Nietzsche believed that choosing when and how to engage is a hallmark of strength. It shows that we are not slaves to our impulses, but masters of our actions. Second, we can actively strive to approach disagreements with genuine curiosity rather than immediate defensiveness. Instead of trying to prove our point, we can seek to understand the other person's perspective. This doesn't mean abandoning our own beliefs, but simply being open to the possibility that we might learn something new or see the world in a different way. Nietzsche valued intellectual courage, the willingness to question one's own assumptions and embrace complexity.
The willingness to question one's own assumptions and embrace complexity. Third, and perhaps most powerfully, we can focus on embodying our values rather than simply arguing for them. This means living in a way that truly reflects what we stand for, even in the face of opposition. Nietzsche believed that authenticity is far more powerful than any rhetoric. When we live authentically, we inspire others not through our words, but through the powerful example we set. Let's bring this back to Nietzsche's larger vision of life. At its core, his philosophy is about embracing the challenges and uncertainties of existence with unwavering courage and creativity. He believed that life is not a problem to be solved, but a vast, empty canvas on which to create meaning. Arguing, in this context, is simply a distraction from the real work of life, the profound work of becoming who we are truly meant to be. One of Nietzsche's most famous ideas is the concept of amor fati, or the love of fate. This is the idea that we should embrace everything that happens to us, the joys and the sorrows,
the successes and the failures, as necessary parts of our journey. By adopting this mindset, we can approach conflicts with a sense of equanimity. Instead of seeing disagreements as obstacles to overcome, we can see them as opportunities to grow, to learn, and to strengthen our character. This brings us to perhaps the most powerful lesson of all, the idea that strength is not about avoiding conflict, but about transforming it. When we approach disagreements with wisdom, humility, and a deep commitment to growth, we can turn even the most challenging interactions into moments of profound transformation. We can rise above the petty need to win, and instead focus on what truly matters, building meaningful relationships, fostering genuine understanding, and living authentically.
So as we close this journey into Nietzsche's philosophy, let us reflect on the deeper truths he offers. Arguing, as he saw it, is often a sign of weakness, not because it is inherently wrong, but because it distracts us from the much greater task of self-overcoming. True strength lies not in dominating others, but in mastering ourselves. It is found in the courage to live authentically, the humility to question our own assumptions, and the profound wisdom to focus on what truly matters. So, the next time you find yourself tempted to argue, pause. Consider Nietzsche's words. Ask yourself, what am I really trying to achieve here? What does this moment reveal about my own insecurities or desires? And how can I use this experience to grow, to learn, and to become a stronger, more authentic version of myself? In the end, Nietzsche's philosophy is not about avoiding conflict altogether, but about transcending it. It is a powerful call to rise above the noise, to embrace the challenges of life with unwavering courage and boundless creativity, and to live in a way that reflects our absolute highest potential. It is an invitation to become the architects of our own destiny, the creators of our own meaning, and the true masters of our own lives. And perhaps, my friends, that is the ultimate lesson Nietzsche offers us, that the greatest argument we can ever make is not with words, but with the very lives we choose to live. Thanks for looking, and I hope this helps you craft an amazing video.